Hello, this is Angelia, and you are listening to or watching the podcast, Why You Do What You Do. The podcast that talks about human development and psychology to maybe help you figure out a little bit more about why you do what you do. And last time we were talking about selective optimization with compensation, meaning older people's strengths will help them, keep some of their, marbles going on as they age. And we're going to take up on changes in processing abilities. As we all get older, we change. Our brain changes, the processing speed and accuracy changes. We all know this. Just what happens to the mechanics of intelligence in late adulthood? How does aging affect the machinery of the mind? A general slowdown in central nervous system functioning, as measured by reaction time, and if you're older than probably 30, you've probably noticed the reaction time slowing down already, is widely believed to be a major contributor to changes in cognitive abilities and efficiency of information processing. So, you can't teach old dogs new tricks. You can, but they get it slower. Older adults do tend to decline in abilities used for learning and acquiring new skills. So that's why my son, who learned Spanish in middle and high school, can speak it so much better than me, who has been studying it for probably, close to a decade now. I might be able to get a sentence out, but it's just the retention and stuff just not what it used to be. But while losses in processing speed are related to cognitive performance, they do not tell the whole story, because everybody's different and everybody's brain thinks different and deteriorates in a different manner. Certain abilities, such as reasoning, spatial abilities, and memory, do not seem to decline as rapidly as processing speed. So, it might be harder for you to learn something new, but generally, the rest of you keeps up fairly well. Furthermore, the evidence for the role of processing speed in cognitive performance, like the evidence for cognitive self-decline, comes almost entirely from cross-sectional studies, which may confound cohort with age. Younger adults may have done better than older adults because they were healthier and better nourished, had more or better schooling, had gained more information from the media, had jobs that depended on thinking rather than on physical labor, or had more and more recent experience taking tests. So those could be reasons why younger folks score better than the older folks, because as we know, there's the world changes, and there's differences between the generations. Longitudinal studies, by contrast, do not tend to show the marked declines in cognitive performance reported in cross-sectional studies. So the testing might have been at fault. However, the longitudinal design may favor an older sample because of attrition and practice effects, because the older people have more knowledge and they've practiced it more. So it's hard to test specific cognitive decline based on one group or another, because it's actually, as you learn how you learn, it's also the same way that you decline, if that makes sense to you. People who score poorly are more likely to drop out of a study, and those who remain benefit from having taken the tests before. So it could just be the ones who are doing well stay in the study. One study designed to resolve the discrepancy between the cross-sectional and longitudinal findings measured links between age, speed, and cognition longitudinally as well as cross-sectionally among 302 adults ranging in age from 66 to 92 when the study began. So they got a better, group of people, a wider scope. Speed of processing accounted for most of the cross-sectional age differences in cognitive abilities, but these effects were reduced or diminished by controlling for individual differences in longitudinal decline. So, like I said, it's still a very individual thing. You're learning, the way you learn is an individual thing, and the way you stop being able to learn is an individual thing. Thus, changes in speed are not nearly as strong a determinant of within-person, age-related decline as cross-sectional analysis would suggest. Because, like I say, you're an individual, and everything about you is an individual, and the way you will decline or not is also going to be individual. Until recently, the prevalent view had been that all components of processing slow equally. Now, cognitive neuroscientists have challenged that view by observing the complex steps in stimulus and response processing that enter into reaction time, because they can hook you up to a machine and look at it right then and there. Event-related potentials, or ERPs, are fluctuations in the direction of the brain's electrical activity that can be measured with electrodes attached to the scalp. In one study, researchers measured ERPs in young and older adults in 3 versions of a reaction time task. Participants were to press a button when they located a particular word amid a jumbled mass of characters. The older adults were slower only in the final step of processing, the pressing of the button. And maybe this is why older folks don't do so well on Jeopardy and things, because the time from getting there to there is slower. This finding suggests that the brain's slowing is not global, but specific to certain tasks and operations. So again, we do slow down a bit as we get older, and your reaction time slows down, and that's just a fact of life. One ability that appears to slow with age is ease in switching from one task or function to another. This may help explain, for example, why older adults tend to have difficulties driving a car, which requires rapid switching among such skills as watching other vehicles and pedestrians, reading signs, and ignoring irrelevant information, as well as the specific skills required to operate the vehicle. And that's why in some states, once you get over a certain age, they start doing testing to see if you still can drive. And you have to be approved. And now I know some older folks that I worked with in other offices and things that said, "Oh, I can't multitask. I can do one thing at a time and do it." And they were usually older folks. So this is the thing. The Seattle Longitudinal Study. In the Seattle Longitudinal Study of Adult Intelligence, researchers measured 6 primary mental abilities: verbal meaning, vocabulary, verbal memory, number, computational abilities, spatial orientation, inductive reasoning, and perceptual speed. An encouraging finding is that cognitive decline is slow and not across the board. If they live long enough, most people's functioning will flag at some point, but very few weaken in all or even most abilities, and many improve in some areas. So that's some good news. You're not going to lose it all at once usually, unless you get an Alzheimer's or dementia disease. Usually you're going to lose some stuff and keep the others. So, it's unfortunate. Me and my father were talking earlier today, and that's one of the things we talked about my grandmother's. The one's mind was still sharp, but her body went. The other one's mind was gone, but her body was okay. So it just depends. Most fairly healthy older adults show only small losses until the 70s. Not until the 80s do they fall below the average performance of younger adults. So once you start getting up in your 80s, you're going to drop off a little bit. And that's just, a fact of life. The most striking feature of the Seattle findings is the tremendous variation among individuals. Some participants showed declines during their 30s or 40s, but a few maintained full functioning very late into their life. So, again, the way you are physically and mentally is very individual. It's very unique to you. So the way you're going to decline is going to be unique to you. It may look like someone in your family. It may look like someone else that has this, that, or the other thing, but it's still going to be very unique to you. Even in their late 80s, virtually all retained their competence in one or more of the abilities tested. And now my dad is 83, and he's still pretty sharp. He forgets something every now and then, but mostly he's still pretty sharp. I would pit his, intelligence against 9 out of 10 people in the world. So, his IQ is a point higher than mine, and we had an uncle that was a high IQ up in the 140s. So, some people remained relatively strong in one area, others in another. So, you might, my kids joke that me and my husband are the opposite. His mind is going, and my body's going. So, that together we make one good person. So, we'll be okay. What accounts for these differences? Genetic endowment undoubtedly plays a part. So, unfortunately, what you got from good old mom and dad is going to play a part in how you go. So do physical and neurological status and environmental opportunities. People with higher scores tended to be healthier and better educated and to have higher incomes. High scorers also were more likely to have stable marriages, intelligent spouses, cognitively complex occupations, and active, stimulating lives. When measured in midlife, they tended to have flexible personality styles and to be relatively satisfied with their accomplishments. Because, of course, if you have a more positive attitude, that's going to carry you into late life too. If you have a negative attitude, that's going to follow you into late life too. According to the engagement hypothesis, oh gosh, don't have a stroke, I'm telling you. Similar to Kahn's substantive complexity hypothesis, people who show high intellectual ability early in life and receive favorable educational and environmental opportunities tend, as adults, to have an engaged lifestyle marked by complex, intellectually demanding occupational and social activities. And I've tried. I didn't come up in the best life. I was not afforded educational opportunities or much opportunities at all. So, I had to wait till later in life, my middle age, to do these things for myself. Engaging in activities that challenge cognitive skills, in turn, promotes the retention or growth of those skills. Several longitudinal studies seem to offer partial support for this use it or lose it hypothesis. A 45-year study of 132 Canadian World War II Army veterans found considerable stability and individual differences in intelligence from young adulthood to late, middle, and old age. So, again, it has to do with your lifestyle, and how positive you are about life. Participants with higher intelligence, education, and childhood socioeconomic status tended to have more engaged adult lifestyles. And of course that goes without saying, because if you come from a middle or higher, income family, you were afforded more opportunities, which challenged your mind, which made you think, and which made you more intelligent. Whereas if you came from a lower income family, you probably weren't that stimulated. They probably sat you in front of the TV. And, you didn't become as intellectual. High engagement, in turn, predicted better maintenance of verbal but not nonverbal intelligence, unless you had a stroke. And then sometimes, as I said, sometimes that thesaurus comes in hand, because, you could study all the different words for a thing, and if your brain can't get the word you want, it might come up with another word that means the same thing. I've had to learn to adapt. Intellectually engaging activities, but not social or physical ones, were related to cognitive change, suggesting that intellectual activities may act as buffers against cognitive decline. That's why I study Spanish, do crossword puzzles and things like that. You got to keep the brain going, because as you heard earlier, if you don't use it, you lose it. So I want to keep it going as long as I can. On the other hand, the findings could support that high-ability individuals lead intellectually active lives until cognitive decline sets in. So in other words, decline might occur regardless of what people do. Again, it depends on your genetics, your environment, and what you do as an individual person. And that's where I'm going to leave you for today. Please, I hope that helped you figure out maybe a little bit more about why you do what you do. For you younger folks watching this, probably not, but it might give you a view into what's going to happen later on as you get older. So please like and share this educational program so we can spread it around the world. If you want to help me out, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want to help me out even more, go to my Patreon page and become a patron. Thanks for watching. That's all for now. Until next time.